Welcome back, Dysfunctional Reading fans, to our second video of the Item series. We're talking about Item Volume 2 with Matrix. This is Bedhead, and I just want to personally say first that I seem to have a pattern with number 2 volumes, because honestly, if I were to rate this volume just right off the bat right now, I liked it a lot more than Item 1. And I already said that this was like a 10 out of 10. This is an easy 11 out of 10. I loved it for all the right reasons. And what's funny is that I liked GT2 a lot. I like Item 2 a whole lot. And I like Item 4 a whole lot. There's a pattern here, and it's very, very funny. But I will let Matrix take the stage for a little bit before he starts ranting off. And then I want to say some stuff about Item 2 as well. Matrix, take it out.
This is going to be really interesting because to give people a sort of a bit of a context about this volume. This volume came out, I read it, and through some series of fortuitous encounters, I got to be on Aeon's podcast about it. And me, Aeon, and Malcolm, his permanent member of the podcast team, yeah, we three ranted about it for 3.5 hours as it was being live streamed. I have a lot to say about it, let's just say. Despite Bedhead saying, hey, it's an 11 out of 10, this is going to be the first time where I disagree, because the original estimate that I gave it when I read it first was actually 8.5 out of 10, and I have my reasons for it. This volume focused a bit more on Mugino, and it kind of gave a bit of a understandable motivation. Of course, she's going to develop even more until we hit mainline Mugino in the mainline novels, but this was really interesting to see her background, and also the fact that we get to see who developed Mugino's power. Was she Caroline? I think she was. Something along those lines. The researcher, the 10-year-old Yaru lolly researcher. Classic Kamachi fashion, about 40% of the cast has to be lollies, or this isn't it, Toaru.
So true, bro.
But I think to give a hint as to why I didn't rate it a 10 out of 10, as Bedhead would have liked it, is because some parts of the volume, the writing felt a bit a standard plot convenience. But this happened. Oh, it just so happens that something really convenient happened for the characters when it really shouldn't have. That's why the 1.5 point was deducted from this volume, or else I would have given a higher score. But we'll get to it when we do get to it. Something else also happens that is quite the twist. People who have read NT and yeah, from this point on, I will just hand it over to Bedhead to just start with the unhinged rants. Uncontrollable unhinged rants, as we usually do. Please, Bedhead.
Hi, that's me. I'm Bedhead. You said it first, but I really liked the Caroline Mugino Kihara Accelerator dynamic in this volume. I think that already making that connection does wonders for me, because just seeing the researcher who developed Mugino's power and the fight at the end just really reminds me of Accelerator fighting Kihara Amada in OT, and I love both of their struggles in this volume. Again, in saying something from Item 1, this volume just started out with a bang, and I'm going everywhere, but this volume started with a bang. Item keeps relocating hideouts because of the way Caroline predicted where they were going to be. The first one, explosion on the balcony. The second they moved to a blimp, and then they moved to another one. They have to keep relocating because Caroline keeps outsmarting them. It's really neat. And also, this team is only comprised of 2 people, where Item is now 4. So the lesser number made it a lot more striking to see how powerful even with 2 versus 4 can be. And you were saying too that this volume is more centered on Mugino, but I think it's more a Brenda highlight to Mugino eventually, because we see we see Takitsubo continue to understand Mugino, where like towards the end she when fighting the, I forgot her name, basically Misuki's prototype, who was actually being
Mary. Oh, you meant the other one. Okay.
I didn't mean her.
Mitsuri Ayu.
Oh, Mitsuri?
Yeah, Mitsuri Ayu.
Oh, I remember where I'm going with this. Takitsubo fills in for Mugino because she herself couldn't say the word save, but Takitsubo said it for her that she wants to save Brenda and Kinohara. But something that is really cool. I'm just jumping all over the place. I instantly forgot how I wanted to develop this review. But you know what? This is me anyway. I will come back to it and whatnot. We see different parts of Mugino in this volume, of how she's initially ticked off at seeing Caroline, how she is reluctant to like go to her family again and ask for help, how she really cares and relies on her Item teammates, and how even though she can't physically say the word save, and she outright won't say a lot of like outwardly say stuff that and show signs that she cares, there are other people who read her language. I think at the end of this volume, being so Mugino centered, I appreciate this dive into her before main story Mugino, because when Caroline dies, she says that this is where her power will stop growing, and I was convinced that when Mugino finished her off for good, that she wasn't bothered by it, but we see her be super vulnerable. Like, to make a connection to NT9, she became super vulnerable to Frenda, which is something that shocked me, because Takitsubo has always been the one that understands Mugino, but she opened up to Frenda. And I'm like, oh, so is this where the Frenda always getting on Mugino and main story, that kind of like friendship kind of evolves from? But it's just, even Frenda understands how this will help her grow as a person and to like evolve, not even through her power, just as Mugino with Item. But like you really, this heartwarming scene, bringing bringing this well-rounded story for Mugino right at the end. Why would you, Kamachi, my guy, why would you say the last sentence of the whole book, in the end, I swear I'll never betray you, from our dear old Frenda? That is just the biggest hint ever. Not that it killed the moment, it's just a, God, I know what you're alluding to type of thing. And why? And supplemented with the art at the end. I'm like, why would you do this to me? It's that kind of storytelling right up to the end that makes me really, really like it. But there's also just so many things in this book that really just stack up on each other. One of the things that happens, and I think this is where I want to dive real quick into another point that I want to say that kind of got that jumbled up. This volume did really well in telling one perspective of a story, and then supplementing it where what happened in the beginning circumvents feelings of that built up to the fight at the end. Let me explain. So in the first new hideout that Item relocates in, one of the first incidents is that I think it was Frenda. She walks inside and sees the dead body on like the shutter, controlled by Mugino because of the typhoon that's coming, that's gonna make landfall in Academy City. I initially laughed because that was super just randomly funny and dark for this series of like, oh yeah, there is a dead guy on the shutter. So how are we gonna take care of that? That was pretty funny. Also, we see Hanatsuyu Mama, and that is kind of a nice nod. She was also in the Coliseum. Neat. Yeah. But this little incident sparked essentially Caroline's sort of like revenge plot. But it really, like, imagine if Mugino never really activated the shutter, then probably this whole thing could have either happened later or not at all. It was literally because she pressed the button, that dude died, and this whole thing started. And that's not really revealed until like so much later that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is another perspective of the same like side of the story. Item thought this was just, oh yeah, someone died, who cares, let's just clean it up. But this held some importance to Caroline and her plan, so now they were acting on it. That was just really cool. And then we get more number 6 hints, and to which in the illustration I thought we would see Misaki, but it turned out to be her Irie. So that was a nice deceiving moment. But seeing just how everyone can team up in this time of distress, of them being outsmarted, all the way up until the end, where a couple of things happen. Mugino gets her ass beat a lot, and it's up to others to help support her in that. One being Takitsubo using her AIM stalker to kind of control her ability, which is really neat. And the other being the information infiltration in the illegal casino. The bunny suit things, I think they're really overrated as a thing, as a design. Bunny suit, bunny girls, okay, we get it. I honestly liked the whole infiltration of that in general, not even minding the bunny suits. And right when they were, like, right when they find like the Judgment Girl and they get the tour and they plan the escape. At the end, when Kinohara and Frenda are just gunning down everybody, the art, despite them being in bunny outfits, was really badass. Because like I said in Volume 1 of Item, these are 4 girls, 4 dark side girls being badasses. Like, they will continue to do badass things. And that illustration was super badass. So I have a lot of respects towards this volume for Mugino, for the relationship of essentially her facing Herky-Hara. Really neat. And just how horrible Caroline is as a villain and an antagonist. Really nice dynamic there. And just seeing more of Item in like in their casual wearing pajamas, literally camping in a veranda. It's really cool. We get to see like just different shades of Item a year before main story. And for my final thing, because Matrix said it in the Item 1 review, something about like the dark and the light and them trying their best to not overlap. With Frenda and Premia, in the beginning when they were shooting down, I don't even remember, like shooting down some helicopters and trying to like kill the remaining people who are on the ground. There Premia is with the little boy, and Frenda uses like a flashbang to distract everybody. She didn't want her sister to be caught up in it, so she had to act quickly and grab the bodies as fast as she can because she doesn't want her younger sister, to see what she's doing. I think that was really cool of an example of how they don't want them to drag innocence in a surprising way because they're the dark side, but also to just not get anyone involved. Super cool. I'm really loving seeing like the dark side like this and how they operate more. It's awesome. That's why it's an easy 11 out of 10.
Well, I agree with everything you said, except for the rating, actually, my guy.
I know.
I'll get to it when we get to it, but to first of all, add to the last point you made. Fremiya, the person that Fremiya was with, is a nice nod to a character that comes later down the line. So for everyone else reading this, it was like, oh, that person would show up. First of all, the entire prologue was just funny to me because of the. Can you imagine what a freaking weather balloon jetpack even looks like? Now, can you imagine Mugino on a weather balloon jetpack? When you try to imagine it, it's just so fucking funny. So what do you mean a weather balloon jetpack? Like actual weather balloons? And Mugino just hanging from those fucking weather balloons with a jetpack on? What? Man, that was so goofy. And of course, we have the motif of Mugino wanting to be the big bad wolf. So that was interesting. Homemade jetpacks are Paul. I agree. And here's another weird thing that I want to point out. You know how Frenda was just items explosives expert? Did you never question as to why the fuck that she become their James Bond inventor and just making weather balloon jetpacks or some other invention, antimatter bomb, which surely would be an overpowered thing for Academy City, and it turns out, yes, it was fake. I was caught off guard. And all these other inventions, which is just like, what? I thought you were just an explosives expert, but when was this in the main series, you know? So I'm a bit hesitant to accept that part of her character, so I'm just like, I don't know. Well, it's mostly an excuse as to why all four of the girls somehow managed to escape when the bomb shot out from a pipe and landed on the balcony and then it exploded. So them surviving didn't seem like such an asshole. The sole reason it didn't seem like an asshole was just because Komachi didn't know. Wait, I got the bomb exploded. Okay, now I need to get them down safely. How do I do that? Let me just go back to the start of the draft and just add the weather balloon jetpack. Nice. It isn't much of an asshole then. I'll look past it. But the real thing actually comes down in. So during the infiltration scene, right? So Shinohara had to fake the death of the Judgment Girl, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
She needed some teeth and like meat from the kitchen. So she freaking went all the way to the kitchen and came back with no one finding her out. Like no one noticing something was weird, no one finding her. In her entire process of going to the kitchen, being in the kitchen, which would be full of a lot of chefs, and everything happening, and taking out a giant freaking meat dumpster for unused meat that wouldn't be used and thrown away. Went back with it.
You know, I noted that too, and I just didn't think about it that hard. Question for you: is all this references of like food and like the wild tastes of the dark side like an eventual or a in development reference to like, are they called full course in Accelerator's Nectar arc? Because I was thinking about that.
I would never make a connection to that, but
brother,
yes, they are called full course.
Oh, so it is,
bro. You know, they are called full course. Yeah. Here's the thing. This is another point where the point went down. Well, first of all, it was the ass pulls that happened in this volume. Second of all, it fucking made acknowledged full course group that comes from the flipping, what's it called? Second half, the Nectar arc of the XL manga. This is 5 times worse than Railgun doing anime originals of the fucking, what was it? The first anime original arc that everybody seems to hate. And then they acknowledged it in a Railgun side story light novel volume. It's canon.
Poltergeist.
Nope.
Poltergeist was a separate thing. There was also another thing, the Silent Party arc. Yeah.
Oh,
The thing that everybody likes to hate on more, the Silent Party arc.
bro was
So-
just so quick to
and that's 5
shoot
times
me
worse.
for making Accelerator reference. I see how it is.
The worst piece of garbage I have ever heard of.
It's the biggest
I'll
piece
read
of
it
dog
someday.
shit. I can see.
Yes, it's the biggest piece of dog shit I have ever heard
that I
of.
have ever heard.
No. Well,
Yeah,
at
that's-
least that nod
that's-
was cool for me.
That's why.
So just
This is
because
why
just
the
because
rating
it
was
paints a
not a 10
small
out of 10.
picture of Accelerator, you just hate it, huh?
It doesn't paint a small picture. I don't know how the fuck it makes sense for Full Course to be a group when they tried to make. Bro, the reason why the fucking drug for, Esper's take to boost their power exists, it was given a reason in the freaking Railgun anime and the Railgun manga that Kihara Gensei made it. So why the fuck do you need to explore a group that made that drug?
You're talking
And
about
it's
Body
literally
Crystal?
explained earlier in the manga. Yeah, Body Crystal. Why the fuck do you need them to have a group that's just let me just extract essence from Espers, and that's how Body Crystal is made. And it's literally explained earlier in the series in a separate, more canon, I would say,
Just to have more freaks in the dark side, I
side
bet.
stories.
Well, of course,
And
it's
it's
freaky as hell.
Even then, of course, it's freaky as hell. But did it need to have an arc surrounding Full Course? Fuck no. Why the hell would it? It's just-
Did we need to have
more
Nectar
edge.
arc be as long as it is? No, Necromancer arc be as long as it is? Fuck no.
I'd agree with you there. No holds barred. I'm not gonna try to defend both of their lens. Necromancer arc was much more bearable than the fucking Nectar arc disaster, whatever that was, because it breaks continuity 3 separate times.
The length
Oh,
of
yeah, this
Necromancer
random
and
bullshit
just
power.
how boring it was just to get to the climax of the arc was hella boring. I don't know what you're on.
So from what I'm getting, you would love something that is part of the canon that breaks all the continuity, is really shitty, even in art style, and does a whole bunch of things that fans would hate, just for it not to be boring.
I'm going to admit that the art for Nectar kind of got worse because I really loved like Volume 1 art for Accelerator, but I enjoyed Nectar far more than boring ass Necromancer art. And I don't even know how it breaks canon because I'm not that much of a lore diver, but I just enjoyed it to enjoy it. And the fact that I even made the connection to Item 2 and Nectar arc is already significant enough for me. You know what? I changed my rating. It's a 13 out of 10. To spite you.
Aight. And then don't even get me started on the fucking antagonists, which are just cardboard cutouts. The twins. Enough ranting. Okay, if you really want to know how the fuck does it break the continuity, A, the body crystal. Second, what sort of bullshit power, teleportation power is it that works on Accelerator's vector shield? And it's specifically stated in the fucking mainline novels that vector manipulation counters teleportation because he takes all the freaking vector calculations into his power in his calculations, so teleportation won't work on him. It works in the freaking Nectar arc. There's a long list of reasons why people hate that arc much more than Necromancer, because at least it got fucking interesting, and there were pretty high points. Even though if you try to argue, oh yeah, half of it was boring, other half was interesting, didn't break the continuity, didn't just straight up do shit. The second half, and the second part where a lot of people are mad, is the portrayal of Last Order's feelings. Be romantically interested in Accelerator. What the fuck is that? And Komachi has literally stated in one of the mainline novels, literal in his author note, that Accelerator and freaking Last Order are a parent and child. They have a parent and child relationship. So what the hell is that? And then going out for a couple chapters of whatever the other girl with Accelerator was, he was trying to save in Nectar arc. Just having a couple chapters dedicated solely building a relationship between them as a romantic partner between Last Order and Accelerator.
I just jotted down as her
There's
not
reasons to be
understanding what
pissed.
she's saying. Or maybe she does because of the
What are you,
Music
like,
Network,
fucking-
but
don't you bro, don't even open that can of worms because that gets invalidated by the Miska Network.
I
There's
just
not
write
much
it off.
defense.
I feel like at the end of the day, it's just a
Not some-
side story, but I don't think we should take it too seriously. Both
Yes,
both
I
arcs
would
are already
really agree
fucked
with
up.
you.
Both arcs are genuinely fucked up in different ways, but I think just the Last Order bit, I just don't pay attention to it much.
It would really help if it wasn't fucking canon.
But the thing is, it takes place like before certain events, so just can't you rule out as like Last Order saying it at that point in time and then like never referencing it again because she moved on past it, because it is like Accelerator starts like right after when he's recovering in the hospital from the headshot injury.
Even if you're trying to tell me to write it off, bro, why the fuck do you want to imply it with the writing that way? Like, majorly, if I want Nectar arc and
Because it's
Nectar
published
Manga
that way, so I can't argue with
Oh,
how he
fucking-
published it.
this is the reason why it could be a good thing. For example, because this is how Kamachi does things. He'll just write out the overall plot, give it to the mangaka, and let them decide the finer details of it. No, this is a bad example of how that can end up really, really worse. But yeah, enough meanderings about that aside, because just the fact. And here's the thing: if you acknowledge it in official works, as much as you would like it to not be canon, it's acknowledged and it's canon. Oh god.
At a time prior, though, it goes back in time, the whole story.
It is prior, yes, but in the OT volumes, freaking all the shit he does for Last Order in OT3 into the 3 stories arc after the fact. Yeah, they couldn't have done it much, but at least they could have went in a different direction, you know? Like, for example, like, I'll give you... This is what older fans have told me, that it would have been much better to just have Accelerator, because I can understand the constraints. I get that point. But wouldn't it have been much better to just have Accelerator do fuck all, be edgy as fuck, because that's his time, and he just got shot in the head, and just do edgy shit? Fans would have loved to see that, me included. But anyways, enough rambling, man.
Welcome back to the Item 2 review featuring Bedhead and Matrix's diverse opinions on Accelerator manga.
I legitimately was like, yeah, this is an Item 2 review, frick it. Those feelings aren't gonna go away if I don't.
You genuinely sound
Puke
pissed
everything
off for having to talk about Nectar arc and Accelerator differences.
Yes, I kinda am. You're not wrong about that.
That's crazy.
Anyways. The whole nod to
We were
Natsuya Mama.
We were talking about the part of Kinohara getting to meet though and trying to like incinerate it as proof. Did you still have something to add about it though?
Just before she decided that, I think that was a pretty defining Kinohara character moment, because before trying to save this judgment girl, she was raised up in a Dark Maid, during the Dark Maid project as a lab rat, as someone to try to experiment on. She didn't really, and on top of that, she was being brainwashed by the subliminal messages in the B movies that they showed them in the lab, which is pretty fucked up, not gonna lie. Before that, she never stood up for anyone really, except for like helping her either group mates and groupies, right? So for her to help this judgment girl, of course she has valuable intel that could be valuable to them. Just the fact that she was willing to help that judgment girl out seemed to me like a pretty defining character moment for Kinohara, as like this is the moment that she took a stance. These are my morals. I'm not gonna stray away from them much. Of course, it's beneficial, so it was easier to convince the other groupies. But still, that was a really nice character moment for Kinohara. Other than that, the plot convenience thing aside, it was just genuinely really fun to see her try to infiltrate that. And the entire fucking thing, the entire reason Kamachi wrote as to why bunny girls are really important in this casino setting, when Japan has a very interesting type of gambling thing over there because of all the pachinko stuff, because technically gambling is illegal in Japan, but it's just, it just so happens that there is a slot machine kind of thing where you insert metal balls into it. Oh, it just so happens this entertainment facility has a building next to it that exchanges that for money. Who could have guessed? That's a legal loophole if I've ever seen one. That's how gambling is there. So Kamachi, knowing how gambling works and going into all the intricacies of the casinos and all that, especially in the context of the dark side, was really interesting to read, and how he justified bunny schools being there because bunny girl suits being there, and it was bunny girls from elementary schools to high school.
That was crazy. I still think they're generally
never
overrated, but you know what? For once, I gave it a okay. I'm gonna let it slide. Just this once.
There's a reason why there's a saying called "fucking like rabbits." So you combine that, a bunny girl, with a hot woman in that skimpy clothing, it just works for a lot of people. Can't really say much else.
To the vast majority of
This is one of
shonen
the
fans, it
reasons
does.
Yes.
The male demographic that it's for.
Mm-hmm. And considering Japan's crashing birth rate and all the depressing stuff and high suicide rates, yeah, those facilities have even more of a reason to exist there. But anyways, moving on to some lighter parts of the volume. So, as I was saying, Anatsuyu Mama, just seeing how messed up she is, despite the fact that people hate the Yuan sisters in GT3, it kind of makes sense.
But they're great.
Thinking of the environment they were raised in. So, that's really nice. And the absolute wild statement, let me read that out loud. Oh, did I say anything about being their mama? As a girl yourself, would you have chosen the skimpy knit dress? There are certain parasites and specific endocrine disruptors that can remove a male human's reproductive abilities and make them female. Thanks for sharing. The more you know, I guess.
I know, right?
And she's genuinely freaking picked up. Yeah, this was, not gonna lie, that was a hype moment because we got to see the Yuan sisters' mama. So, mama, potentially papa, who knows? It's just all the types of people that you will find in the dark side. So that was a really good example and highlight. To jump back to the prologue. Do you remember the censored words in this volume? When okay, let me read this out loud. Huh? In the end, that means she's going to tie up our with cover our grated yams, drag us out onto the high-level balcony where there's no escape, and spend all day us like that. It itches more than it hurts, but it's still hell on earth. This is Frenda saying if Mugino gets pissed and activates her torturous sadism, kinky torturous sadism, I must add, because that's what it looks like. This is what she does to the item girls. So now that you know this information, what's your reaction?
Oh, I tried to funnily fill in the gaps and then proceed to never think about it again. I will say, I at least I remember one of the words, I think being only 4 asterisks long. I just thought that Mugino would like spank them all to oblivion. I don't know why. I don't know why I got that image, but again, I proceed to think about it, have fun with it, and then never think about it again.
This is in the canon, so I'm just gonna say, okay, so this is what Mugino does in her free time and no one's looking. Moving on, there was references to modern social media and modern pop culture things. Eagle Brothers, that was what the boy and Fremia were talking about. There was Skype, Starzux.
Skype being exactly spelled though. I'm like, oh. Kamachi can be just super silly when he writes, and I love that.
Do you remember the prologue where they were? Because what happened was they were going on jetpacks, so trying to eliminate these dark side organization called Mutual Acquaintance, which basically takes illegal orders.
Oh, the idol girl, right?
In the entertainment industry, yeah.
In
the entertainment industry.
Dude, that was so fucking badass. Shamefully, I thought of Oshinoko, but hey, it was more cool. Imagine just meltdownering an idol. My god, I must look cool and feel cool.
Here's the thing, my boy. Me, Aeon both thought of the Oshinoko idol that Mugino just shot through.
Let's go!
I could not stop fucking laughing at it for 5 minutes straight. Not gonna lie, man.
Real. So true, so true.
And the funniest part was Hanatsu Hane Sarari was the name. So I could have filled in the gaps and then just visualized, that's Hatsune Miku's long-lost idol sister. Right?
Kamachi, my goat.
But anyways, I really did enjoy all the lighthearted scenes with them being in the balcony, just cooking steak, having a camping in the balcony, and of course all the fan service. And the constant, of course, this is classic Kamachi fan service, constant reminder, oh, it's raining. Only wearing skimpy night dresses and pajamas. Mugino's clothes are completely see-through. And can't wait for that to get drawn in the manga, which I haven't read yet.
And animated. I mean, what moment of weakness?
Literally,
that
70%.
That wasn't me.
That was what?
What? Nothing.
Okay, anyways, the power was really cool, and I do appreciate one thing about Kamachi, how he can come up with fresh ideas to implement Mugino's powers, even after so much of the lore has been expanded on. Especially at the end, towards the end of Item Volume 1, when she was having the whole, fight with the fake fraud leader of the fraud item. And in this one, yeah, the other gripe that I have about this volume, this is, of course, jumping all over the place again, but the other gripe that I have about this is the fact that, the villain plays with her food, and what happens? She just Aim Stalker controls Mugino's power. Boop! Eriotachi gone. Aim Stalker controls Mugino's powers. Boom! The lolly antagonist gone. Wow. Very nice. Fight of all time.
She was in a state where she couldn't do it herself, though. I think that was a really cool thing to do.
Of course.
It built up hype for Takitsuba and her ability.
has been built on this hype of like she can manipulate other people's esper powers. It has been hinted a lot in the mainline novels. So for it to get actual confirmation, yeah, that was really hype. Just disappointed the same thing was used to deal with the other antagonist. That's all.
Then let me ask you a question then. Does this annoy you more than the constant foreshadowing in GT of Toma's death?
It doesn't annoy me as much. Because, well, it's disappointing that that's how it ended up. But, I don't mind it much. It's just, it factored on why I cemented at 8.5.
Bruh. You're a hard man to please.
It. Even then, you have to think about it, right? GT10 spoke to me on a higher level than NT9. Now that sounds pretty crazy, but I've already told you how crazy my rating is. But here's the thing. That 10 out of 10 rating still depends on how they handle
GT12?
whatever happens after GT10. Yes, in GT12. We are not going to spoil what happens in GT and NT, so that's why I'm keeping my comments a little vague, but...
The GT video is going to be out before
why.
this one, so that's why I'm asking right now.
Yes, but there are going to be people who are just going to watch the item volumes and then you just spoil them.
Their fault.
I've already acknowledged it. It's kind of like, yes, the impact was lost because it was overemphasized so much. But the volume, in terms of what it did and how it was concluded, made up for that bit of the impact being lost. But here's the differentiating part between NT9 and then. In NT9, Toma knew these were just Arthurus' worlds. He knew this is technically reality, but not his reality. Everything that's happening here is not going to be permanent, right? So that kind of mindscape and mindset of how he broke out of it into Will, that's kind of also one of the reasons. I should have mentioned this in the NT9 video, not gonna lie. Actually, you know what? This is also kind of the reason why Toma was able to deal with the effects of, in my opinion, all the billions and billions of Arthurus' worlds that he had to go through. But here, in reality, there's not really much else. His death has been foreshadowed. Yes, he has died, and there are separate sheets for it, so the impact is lessened. But no, he is dead. He died in reality. That's gonna have consequences on the people around him as well. This is why, just really hoping GT12 tackles it really well. But this is why, if it tackles it really well, yeah, in my opinion, GT10. The only thing missing that I would then knock it down to 9 is if it poorly tackled the consequences on other characters. That's it. You know Heaven Counselor, right?
Yeah.
And if you remember in the anime, he's made the joke that he's a doctor in that specific hospital just because there are hot nurses there.
He said that?
I'm sure that's in the anime. If it's not, then I accidentally spoiled you on a minor thing from the OT novels. Then
For him to say that is kind of wild. I thought you were just gonna make a nod to the nurse who defected from the hospital. Or the doctor or whatever.
Yeah. This is what I'm saying. Maybe she defected from the hospital. Well, she did say it in reference. She can't stand the Heaven Counselor because that's most likely what who she was referring to.
I just thought she couldn't stand the policy of always wanting to save people, like, 100%. But
that policy also stems from the Heaven Counselor.
But you did shed a new light on things, though. Interesting.
So that maybe Heaven Counselor had a bit of a more role into it as to how she got out of the hospital, defected from the hospital, the other dark side. And of course, it was really badass to see like a full-on nurses with freaking anesthetic shotguns on a damn helicopter hospital. This is the most Academy City dark side shit that you're ever gonna hear. To get to the more serious part, Gino's family and her butler. And Mugino's family is crazy. The lore implications go crazy because Mugino's family is so filthy rich. They are they are responsible for the main production for, what did it say? 70 to 80% of the grain production for the entire world. Like world's supply for one of the most essential food items is reliant on Mugino's Yakuza-like underworld controlling family. Her family is like one of the top 5 richest family in the whole world of Toaru. So that's even crazier. She was kind of raised in that sort of environment, but still wanted independence for quite a lot of stuff. She wanted to do things on her own. That's why she came to Academy City, ended up developing powers. And that's also the reason why she kind of rejected her butler's, assistance, because he was like, I'd be willing to help my lady out. And the sheer fact, the coolness of the name Mountain Sniper, because he can just freaking set up a sniping position outside Academy City and accurately hit anywhere in the city from more than 300 kilometers away. It's insanity. It's insanity. I'm curious to learn more about her family upbringing and especially that butler.
Butler, my
The plot twist with it being Mitsuri Ayu, it was a good plot twist. Really good plot twist.
Good setup too to fool us.
Yeah. It makes it, makes me like the character more after some stuff that has happened to her.
Biohacker?
I'm not gonna state where exactly it happened, but she isn't exactly in just this spin-off. She's in one other spin-off, and she's actually in another work. You'll be surprised. To get her character's full story, you need to read like 3 different series in the Toaru universe.
Making more work for me, I see, Kamachi. I take it back, I hate this man.
Just the fact that she was influencing Mugino's psyche and how broken Mugino's psyche is. Because for her, the fastest method to bring out Frenda and her rubies is just to try to put Mitsuri Ayu in, like, the most danger. It was so funny to read. There's actually a lot more I could say about it, but I'll skip through it. I'll just get to the antagonist. I really liked how Kamachi baited us with the plot line of Pachio Mary and, Caroline.
Forgot about Mary, she's tragic. Poor Sam.
Caring about Mary, but then we saw her inner psyche. She didn't care about her at all. She only saw her as a tool. Because her entire psyche was like, she really liked her sister, and the plot was going in the, she's gonna finally find, a big sister replacement in the form of Mary. Things may not end up good, but maybe something will happen. And, Mary died. She was just a tool because her psyche functions in the way of value versus output. She sees humans as a bunch of functions, depending on all the things they can do and the value that those people can provide to her. So if a function can't provide any value to her, a human, they're useless to her. And it's a very egotistical way of looking at people, completely disregarding their inner self, solely judging them based on their output and treating them more as almost sort of like commodities to use. Was a really interesting antagonist character psyche, because I don't think I've seen this anywhere else, honestly. So a really interesting villain, and those words hitting her like a truck. And the part of Mugino being so vulnerable at the end was so good, because of the fact that some people might have questioned it, but like here you gotta consider every single level 5 is being worked on and being supported by Academy City and being allocated funding to further develop their powers. Now she no longer has that guarantee because it's just been cut off. And it's not even about, oh, her research project paper and the main researcher is gone. How are the researchers going to develop it? Well, they have the tools and resources necessary. They just aren't allowing it. So in a world where even level 5s are not safe from the dark side, she's now stuck in a position of stagnation of her power, where even supposedly level 5s are not safe from the dark side because of how unpredictability and the threat of the dark side's bane really looming over everyone. And being left behind in this system, no support, just defending for herself in a system that she kind of relied on since the moment she came into Academy City. That's what I would assume, at least. It makes sense for her character to be so vulnerable about it. And of course, that scene, Machi just had to twist the blade deeper with the foreshadowed line, "In the end, I will never betray you." And especially Mugino crying on her shoulder. This volume had really great moments. It's just some of the plot convenience and pushed it out of the rating. But yeah, that's mostly, I think, it. Other than the fact, just the last hype moment, I'll mention it, and then we'll wrap up this way too long recording. I love the fact that Akitsubo just straight up freaking pulled up a gun on Mugino.
God damn it, you stole what I want to say away from me. I really want to be like, speaking of character defining moments, Takitsubo pulls the gun. You damn thief! I hate you. I was saving it.
You really weren't butting in. You really weren't butting in, so I assumed I just had the clear.
I was gonna wait. You were like, let's wrap up. I'm like, wait a minute, let me stop you. No, but go off, my guy. It was a really badass moment. Her unwavering eyes, you couldn't tell, but she was not hesitating. That still draws a line of. That still draws the interesting line of what I said last time of like, Takitsubo wants to help, the people on the light side of Academy City, despite them being on the dark side, and they have like these surprisingly kind and wanting to save the people, these morals that I would not have expected to have existed.
And just the fact that because Takitsuba has been with Mugino the longest, and there's an implied backstory here, like at the end of towards the end of this volume, literally stated that Takitsubo was falsely accused, and she was forcibly dragged into the dark side because of a certain someone who wanted to take advantage of her, something like there was probably higher up intervention in her life so that she could be pulled to the dark side, and then that's how she ended up with Mugino. She knows Mugino the longest because after Mugino, Fernanda ended up joining, and then after that, of course, Kinhara. But just the fact, because she wasn't even doing it yet, it was heart desire of saving people, but it was just the fucking fact that Mugino was not willing to admit to saving those people, so she pulled a gun to remind her, hey, deep down, you want the same damn thing. To stop being a edgy bitch about it and save those people. I mean, this is what it felt like, what Takitsubo said to Mugino in that threatening voice. And I love that character interaction way more. And and I really want to dive into their relationship and like what exactly happened in their past to like have their relationship dynamic be this way.
Girl stood up,
Yeah.
and I respect that.
That was the straight up. But yeah, it's about it.
He says with the
I
question mark. If I were to give a last comment, I would just say that it's cool how Accelerator and Mugino both ended off like a part of their story by killing off their head researchers.
Yeah, there's a strong parallels in that.
That's really all I got, though. Goated volume. Even more goated for pissing off Matrix with Nectar arc.
Of course it is. We'll end this recording with the last statement from Kamachi that he made at the end of the volume. Before he does the, I closed the pages of this volume hoping that you would open the pages of the next one. And I'll see myself out. Something like that. That's his usual outro to end things in his author notes at the end of the volumes. And then he adds like a singular line in every single of his author note as like the last line, offhand comment. And he mentions, and these dark side stories kill off characters so fast.
Real.
Brother is really not used to it. But
hey, it's actually super good.
Bedhead are looking forward to item volume 3 and 4, which we'll read most definitely at a later point in time, because these two, in fact, this is going to make these two recordings sound really dated, but we recorded NT9 for the randomizer, that whole podcast discussion, and the discussion of item 1 and this discussion of item 2 on the same day. So you can laugh at it with the schedule, thinking how these 3 recordings were posted so far apart. That's just how it goes. But I hope you all enjoyed. Any last comments before I do the outro? Bedhead?
Welcome to Dysfunctional Readings, where Bedhead, being the main editor, will take his time doing whatever he wants.
And we love you for it. Please keep doing what you do. But anyways, for all of you who enjoyed, please be sure to like the video, and if you did not, be sure to dislike it. We keep things fair here. If you want to share anything, any anecdotes, and any more points that you think that we may have missed and didn't talk about, because first of all, we were on time constraints, and second of all, this video would have been far longer. So please be sure to write that down in the comments down below. Check out our socials in the description if you really want to get to know us, wink wink. And we will see you all in whatever the next thing ends up being. Goodbye, folks. Have a good time.
Catch you later.